It's interesting you say that because you think about how we resorted to checking in on family, right, or checking in on friends, using the technology during that time, right, and as a result of again marketing, right. We didn't see Zoom marketing before then. However, when it hit, you saw so many of I think Google saw tons of advertising for Google Meet at the time, right? I think Zoom had really become overwhelmed, and we needed other outlets for conducting our meetings, right?
Sure.
Good afternoon, and welcome again to another session with Atlantis University, or AU Studios, as we like to call it. Welcome to those that have decided and made a conscious effort to tune in with us. Today we have a podcast for you that you just won't regret. We've got a marketing expert, guru in the house with us, Arthur Lyons, who is not only a marketing expert, but he's also one of our faculty at Atlantis University. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, Arthur, for thinking enough of us to share your knowledge, your expertise. And we're just looking forward to chatting with you and taking in all the wealth of knowledge. How are you on this day?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. So, marketing, right? You know a lot about marketing. You are a marketer. You teach courses at Atlantis University and other universities covering marketing, techniques of marketing. Tell us how you got started in marketing, and let's talk about the state of marketing today.
Sure. I grew up in New York City, media capital of the world, perhaps, and even as a young man, the streets are loaded with billboards and subway signs and bus signs, and inside and outside the buses, you take the subway, every train stop has advertising on it. Every subway car is loaded with advertising. Times Square, Fifth
Oh my
Avenue.
God, Times Square for sure.
So I felt like I was very attuned to marketing, and I followed some great campaigns that were going on during the time. I remember one in particular that was fun. In winter in New York, it's nasty, and if it snows, you got snow and slush on the streets, and you're commuting back and forth from work in Manhattan, slogging through the slush, getting your shoes all messy, and the billboards would say, beautiful picture of Miami beaches, people in bathing suits with the sun shining warm, and it would say, when you need it bad, we got it good. and that was effective marketing.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
Made you want to just go to the airport and get on a plane.
And so it's interesting that you talk about Manhattan, or in particular Times Square, and marketing. OMG. There is, every ounce of your surrounding is taken up by some kind of marketing ad marketing campaign in Times Square. You look up, you look down, you look straight out. Every instance, every ounce of your surrounding in Times Square is consumed by some kind of ad or marketing. And you grew up with that.
Very true.
Amazing.
Very true. Yes.
And now I'm from Chicago, downtown Chicago. We know it.
Very similar,
but
right?
Arthur, we don't quite do it like Times Square. I have to tell you that.
I don't think there's any place quite like
Times Square. That does it quite like Times Square. And so when you think about, in your upbringing, to be so involved and so engaged and surrounded by so much advertising, or so many billboards, or so many announcements, or so many pictures, it's nothing to you. And so it, certainly lends way into why and how you've become a marketer. So tell us today, how is marketing from, the time when you were a little boy to today? So in terms of evolution, like how have we evolved from the standpoint of marketing and just what's happening now and what we're able to take advantage of or not as a result of marketing?
I'd be happy to. It's something I like to talk about. Marketing is always changing.
Yeah.
Marketing practices, effectiveness, it's changing because culture is changing.
Sure.
People are changing. Politics are changing. The world is changing.
Yes.
Technology is
Yes.
changing.
Constantly.
Those days in New York, there was no internet, It was all, television was the king, and ads on television, and you didn't have the plethora of programs to be watching, so many people watched the same shows and saw the same advertising repeatedly and knew it very well. So ads like Kellogg's Frosted Flakes with Tony the Tiger. Do you remember that line?
Yes, you were great. I remember.
Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, they're
great. Yes. I remember. Like it was yesterday.
Very memorable stuff.
Yeah.
So it has changed, obviously, since then, and dramatically. Radio used to be very important. Television was, as I said, the most important.
Sure.
And that is no longer the case. It has evolved. Now we know with the internet and social marketing and digital marketing.
Streaming, which is kind of the end thing. I think about, when you talk about TV importance, not so much now because we're watching everything via our phones, right? We're streaming through the phone, we're streaming through our computers, we're streaming through whatever electronic tool, we're streaming through the Apple Watch, like we're streaming through everything.
Yes, and the ads still have a place.
Yeah.
If you don't pay for the program, for example, on Spotify, you have to listen to ads. If you want to go on YouTube and you don't have a paid subscription, you need to watch an ad before you can,
Yeah.
So it's that much has not changed dramatically. Advertising is still
there.
What funds a lot of the programming and the content that we get.
Sure. Wow. So, you know what? It's interesting that you said that. I'm glad that you pointed that out because the ads are still there. And like you said, if you haven't paid for a subscription on Pandora or YouTube, or you do still get the ads. And so we do still get to see, many products, products that we maybe ordinarily, if we had a subscription, we wouldn't hear these things or we wouldn't see them normally. True. Right?
True.
However, without the subscription, we do still get the interruption, which gives us the information or does advertising for different other products. I hadn't really thought about
exposure to it. Sure.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about
that. But
I
think that in today's society, with the evolution of marketing that has taken place, people don't like to watch advertising. They don't like that they have to watch an ad in order to watch a YouTube video.
I agree.
Or they're listening to Spotify, enjoying their music, and they have to listen to 30 seconds of an ad, even if it's a good ad. They want to consume marketing when they want to, and if they want to. So that's called permission marketing, where they give their permission to be marketed to. For example, I follow a lot of brands and marketing, and I'll subscribe to them. So in my inbox or in my social media feed, I'll get their content because I've subscribed to it. So, and then people are much more receptive because they've asked for that to be given to them. Maybe you don't want to consume it every time. Maybe you say, I'd like to see it, but I don't have time to read it today, but maybe I'll read some from time to time.
Sure. Yeah. So with what you've said, right? We don't want the interruptions, in our news or in our music or in our shows. We pick and choose, what we want to watch when we want to watch it. What makes marketing so important? Why is it so important to us?
Good question. Marketing is so essential to business and society. It involves psychology, sociology, fashions, cultural trends and shifts. Influencers are big in marketing now. People who we like and admire, who you're going to pay attention to because you like and admire, and they broadcast a product. They talk about a product or a service. That's very effective marketing these days. You see lots of major influencers talking about brands and developing a following, and the following that they have as a personality or an entertainer brings those people to the product that they're introducing and talking about.
And so I understand, why it's so important then to brands, right? Why it's so important to companies. But in terms of why it's so important to us as consumers, is it because we're able to live vicariously through marketing? Is it because we're able to, not miss out on what trends, right? Is it because we're able to stay abreast of trends? Is it because we're able to, be exposed and receive information that we otherwise would not? You just spoke about going to Ireland.
Yes.
I spoke about going to Greece.
Yes.
Well, had I not seen something that had, advertised Mykonos, or that advertised Cabrini, I think it's called, I would not have really thought about going to Greece, right? Had I not seen something that registered or resonated, I wouldn't be thinking about going to Greece. So is it because it really feeds the soul, so to say?
I think it does all of the things that you mentioned, but maybe primarily it informs us about products and services and how they might benefit us and what they have to offer us. And it's a reflection of society. Marketing, like art, is a reflection of society. Things that become popular in society become ideas for products and services to support it. We were talking also about COVID and what happened when COVID hit and changed our social order and restricted us from leaving our homes so much. Well, many marketing, that's an opportunity for many marketers, right? It's, what can a marketer do under those kinds of conditions? Well, some companies took very good advantage of it. The streaming content companies did very well. Exercise equipment and gyms.
Peloton, you mentioned that, sure. And so I guess we saw the tide change because while Peloton did well, Zoom did well, right?
Oh, Zoom, yes. Look at the growth in that as a result of people
phenomenal,
stuck in their
phenomenal.
homes.
The flip side of that is, I guess, Disney didn't do so well, right? Because remember, and I see it now, they're back. I see the advertising, $54 for the park, $200 for pass for 3 parks, 2 days. Like all the advertising that was happening then for Disney, we didn't see.
Right.
But I'm sorry, we didn't see during the pandemic. However, we never saw advertising for Zoom during the pandemic, right? Quite like we did during the pandemic, right?
Yes.
Before the pandemic, we never saw advertising for Zoom quite the same.
Right. And video conferencing was used, but not to a great deal.
Then, oh my God.
All of a sudden, it became one of your main options.
It became the only option in many cases, right? For us, for universities, right? For corporations that left their buildings. It became the only option for some of us to be able to continue to operate.
And important for families, just to maintain family contacts and celebrate big occasions.
Yes.
I can't go visit mom, but
to check in on family
we can set her
members.
up with on video conferencing,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
almost next best thing to being there.
It's interesting you say that, because you think about how we resorted to checking in on family, right, or checking in on friends, using the technology during that time, right, and as a result of, again, marketing, right. We didn't see Zoom marketing before then. However, when it hit, you saw so many of I think Google saw tons of advertising for Google Meet at the time, right? I think Zoom had really become overwhelmed, and we needed other outlets for conducting our meetings, right?
Sure.
But I think about how not only, checking in on family, right? Making sure that others were doing okay. We could not have done that without Zoom, because or those kinds of platforms, which came to the forefront as a result of COVID.
And what it brings to mind is marketing strategy.
Marketing strategies.
And the
yes.
the SWOT analysis,
Yes. Yes.
And a company like Zoom, like Peloton, would look at their strengths and weaknesses internally.
Absolutely.
What are we good at? What do we really know?
Yeah.
What do people know us for and like us
Yes.
for? What are our weaknesses? How can we address those? And then they look externally at opportunities and threats.
Yeah, threats.
So COVID hits. For many companies, it's a threat. But for some companies, it's an opportunity as well as a threat.
Absolutely.
And we talked about Peloton. So Peloton says, okay, people are, restricted to their homes and restricted in travel. Let's develop this product and promote it strongly, and they did. And many people bought it. It became a rage of a product. They developed programming for it, where they ran exercise classes.
Yes.
Over
the screens,
Right.
which was via either digital or
Even
some
live.
kind of or live.
Even live sometimes. Yeah, a lot of them were canned, but even live sessions, exercise
Yes.
sessions, and
Yes.
exercise professionals who are really good at taking you through a program and keeping you
Spinning
motivated
on
and
the
talking
bike.
to you the whole
Yeah,
time.
absolutely.
So that was a great opportunity
Yeah.
for that company, and
Yeah.
they've done very well as a result of it.
I'm glad you said that. You talk about SWOT analysis. When you think about strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, I would imagine that companies who the strengths in some cases became weaknesses, right? And the weaknesses in some cases became strengths or opportunities.
Oh, we talk about that in marketing class.
Yeah.
One example that we use, which I find intriguing, is mattresses. So what's the traditional way of going to buy a new mattress? You go do some research, and you go to a mattress store, Mattress Giant, or and you do the thing. You lie down, try some mattresses. And then there's some companies who started to develop mattresses that they send to you and ship to you in a box.
Yes.
And you would think, well, that's a real disadvantage for those companies. They don't have the store to display the nice mattress. You can't lie down on it. Well, what they did is they developed great communications material that showed all the advantages that you would experience, so you don't have to go to a store. And they ship the product to you in a box. The technology is amazing. You open up the box, you lay the product, you take the product out of the plastic, and it opens up and it fills up, and it's fine. It's a lot easier than a traditional mattress.
Yes.
So here's a company that took a weakness and turned it into a strength.
Wow.
A great strategy.
Wow, and that's a great example.
Purple was one brand of mattress that does that.
I've heard
there are
of
many
Purple.
now.
There, as a result, I'm guessing of COVID. As a result of COVID, Purple. I don't know that it existed before COVID. I had never heard of it before COVID, and there are several others now that are becoming household brands.
Yes.
Post COVID.
Yes.
Interesting though, and the whole mattress concept. Yeah, that is definitely a winning solution, I guess one can say. So because those companies then did not have to go out of business. right? You
Right.
you hopefully didn't lose business. And I would imagine business may have even picked up because now you have people that are at home and everybody's not so busy, and mom and dad gets to assess, right?
Oh, sure.
The house, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And items in the home.
Oh, the restriction in travel and going out was a great boon for companies like Amazon
Yes.
selling household products, do-it-yourself products. Home Depot
Yes.
did great
Yes.
because people are restricted to their homes. So let's fix up the house. Let's make the den nicer and get a
Yes.
new TV and some bit more electronics. And yes,
Absolutely. And so when we think about I see that our producer has put on the screen for us. So the marketing mix, right? We've talked about why marketing is so important. We've talked about kind of what drives it. When you think about the marketing mix, right? So the product, the price, the place, and the promotion. We see, and when we talk about, promotion, right, you think about how much now is on streaming, how much is on the different channels. Like cable has 9,000 channels, and there are promotions, right? There are different products being promoted on almost every 9,000th of the channels. And so from a promotion standpoint, there are so many ways for us to physically see a product. There are so many ways that a product is being discounted, or there's so many incentives, should I say, that are being presented to us as consumers in terms of making a purchase of a product.
Sure.
Right? One of the things, and I talked about this with the marketer most recently, almost every store that has an online component offers now an alternative to paying cash to make a purchase. So there are platforms called platforms that allows you to make 4 payments over time or 6 payments over time. There's a platform called Acclaim. There's PayPal that even offers this, right? Different promotions now that are taking place, or companies are incentivizing and offering different promotions to increase sales.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Marketers need to look at what are the obstacles that prevent a person from getting what they want.
And create a strategy to overcome that obstacles, because companies have done that in such big ways nowadays. When you talk about evolution, like the evolution of marketing is real, and it continues to evolve. It seems like, every quarter there is something new. You and I both being in business, we teach business, we do business. Every quarter, right, if not monthly, in some industries and in some ways, there's something new being introduced to, whether it's you talked about this, really pointed out, a niche or a group of consumers.
Yes. I see this niche marketing becoming much more the mainstream. There's such a diversity of products. Take any product. Take the iPhone. There's many versions of the iPhone. And then what's the latest now, the 14 or 15, whatever.
15, I think it is.
Each model, like the 15, will have different versions of it.
Yes. Pro
at different price points with different features.
12,000, not that quite 12,000. Actually, there was a gold iPhone. I think it was about 20,000 or something like that. I'm not sure if you heard about it, Anibal. A gold iPhone selling for somewhere between 15,000 and 20,000. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't real gold. It was gold plated. Yeah.
But I think the takeaway for marketers is that offer a wide selection of products, for people at different
renditions
levels
and versions,
and in different economic situations. Offer downscaled versions. You can get downscaled versions of Spotify, for example. You can listen to it with advertising and not have to pay. And then you get the premium subscriber where you don't have to listen, as we talked about. Almost every product has different versions.
I agree.
Like that.
Whether it's automobile, right? Whether it's an Escalade versus an Escalade, or a better example, whether it's a Infinity, right, QX60 versus a Nissan Pathfinder, right? Different. So almost the same model of a vehicle, a Lexus versus the Toyota.
You have different options all along the way.
Different options.
And you have customers who are ideal for those products at the different levels. So I see that's where marketing is going. Mainstream marketing, one product for everybody, you don't see that being very effective. What you do see is this niche marketing, products that are special for special categories of people and groups, and that's what the focus is now.
I agree, and I think it's probably, certainly today, one of the best ways to market, because you have just in Miami alone, or in South Florida alone, the plethora of groups, right, ethnicities that we have here.
Yes.
You would be remiss if you did not offer niche marketing, right, in a place such as this.
I can think of a great example. Airbnb. Airbnb has general service, as we all know about, but now Airbnb has niches. You can go to Airbnb tree houses, Airbnb beach houses, Airbnb camping sites, castles. You can search on Airbnb for castles and specifically find a castle to go and stay at.
Amazing.
People want unique experiences. They want different, adventures, things that they've never seen or done, and they can get them. It's all there for them.
The Airbnb experience reminds me of what RIM, right, BlackBerry, did not do from a production or a marketing standpoint. You say, and I think about it because I just think about how Airbnb is making every attempt to stay ahead, right? One step ahead, right, of what's happening, and particularly of trends. Whereas the BlackBerry, which I love, and if they came out with one today, I'd probably buy it tonight, right? But they no longer exist because they did not stay up with, they didn't position themselves to compete. They weren't in tune to trends, right, when Samsung and then all of a sudden iPhone comes out, they didn't do what it took to be able to exist in local markets today. Whereas on the other side, Airbnb is stunning us, right, on practically every level, because every time you turn around, there's something distinct. There's a very distinct offering. While Apple continues to do that, we're not surprised by it, right? Because we've had the iPhone 2 to 3, and we're at 15. So we know Apple will continue to evolve along that whole iPhone numeric right, path that they're on. I guess the surprise will be just in to what degree that product will evolve, right, and wow us. The product, the distinct features of the product itself.
Well, interesting talking about Apple. I'm thinking about what they did. They're good marketers, right?
Sure.
So they look at their strengths. What's their strengths? Technology development, software development, systems that interact with each other. And they look, in the SWOT analysis, they look at the external environment and see what people need. People are busy and time-starved, multitasking, trying to do so many things.
Absolutely.
Trying to stay in contact with colleagues and children and family members. And they saw the idea for the iWatch. They developed an iWatch that allows people to do just that. Healthcare workers don't have to pull out a phone; they can just glance at their watch. Restaurant workers, many different classes of workers. And the iWatch has been a tremendously successful product. It has more than 50% of the market. So it's doing very well for them. So that's a great example, I think, of strategy. Of when you can put together opportunities with your strengths and go for it, you know.
And now, does the iWatch, what I'm not sure of, does the iWatch offer, I guess, one for, say, a $400 one and then a $200 one? Does it offer different versions,
models yes.
of the iWatch?
Oh, and then customization. You can customize the iWatch in hundreds of ways, probably thousands, because you can have all kinds of bands. There's faces. The faces are digital, so there's an endless supply of faces that you can have. You can put Mickey Mouse today, and you can put a traditional watch face tomorrow, and you can put a Star Wars one the next day.
Good.
You know,
wow, that's
so
awesome.
Going to people's specific passions and interests, you know, that's what drives them. A brand that comes to mind with that is Crocs. You know, the footwear, right?
Absolutely.
It's been around a while.
Okay.
It was successful for a while. Many people love it, and others thought they were ugly and weird and funny looking. And then interest in sales kind of tailed off a bit.
It went through the what is it? The cycle. What is it? The life cycle.
Product life cycle.
Product life cycle.
But as it went past its maturity and into decline, marketing and product development brought it back to life. How did they do that? Well, they made it customizable to basically anything. Right now, Barbie is a big movie just come out, and people are talking about it. They have Barbie Crocs with the little gibbets that have, you can customize it just the way you like. Put no gibbets or some gibbets or lots of gibbets, that say Barbie and all the Barbie images. You're a Star Wars fan, you can get Star Wars ones. You're a superhero fan, you can get Batman or Superman. Any personal interest that you might have, you can express with your footwear. And footwear is a very big fashion statement now. You see our students here at Atlantis University, take note of their footwear. That's casual footwear and comfortable footwear, but they express themselves and their personality a lot through that.
I agree. And so then, with that being said, when I asked the question, why is marketing so important, I think certainly we've identified many reasons, but the expression of self, right?
Yes.
The expression of individuality, the expression of, life. This is me, what's right for me, what fits me. Marketing allows us as individuals and certainly as consumers to do and be personified as whatever we choose.
That's right. It allows us to express our personality to a great deal, and gives us so many options to do it with. Whether it's exercise options that we might have, bicycling or running or going to the gym.
Whether it's our hair, red hair, purple hair, pink hair, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's our, our clothing, Batman on the front or Superman on the front or, Quasimodo on the front. Depending upon the movie that's out. So whatever it is, certainly marketing. For me, marketing is important because I get to learn, but not so much that I just get to learn because I just get to learn, but because I get to learn so much about others. Right, because as a businesswoman and as, just as a human and as, a woman, I get to learn so much more. And when I say learn, I should say when we see people or when we see things, of course, we take on our own ideas, right? Whether it's opinion, whether it's a judgment, call it what you like. We take on our own ideas of that person or of that thing, right?
Yes.
And so it can be, it can be viewed as a learning, opportunity. It could be viewed as something that we're learning. Could be viewed as just as something that we're seeing. Depends. So it's subjective. It's whatever you receive it as. But marketing is important to me because I get to stay abreast of so many things. I get to understand what's happening today. I always get to know what the trends are, right? So if I see certain behavior, whether it's in a boardroom or whether it's in a classroom, if I don't understand it, it's not totally foreign to me, because by way of some kind of marketing avenue, I've seen it, or I've been exposed in the least. With that being said, we can segue to what brought you to Atlantis University, and what is it about teaching marketing courses here that continues to bring you back?
Oh, sure. Well, I started in marketing in New York. I started working for different corporations in New York. I worked for the Bell system, and learned that I really enjoyed marketing, and I was good at it, mostly as a writer. At the time, I was what was called a copy contact person. That means you had your contact with the client, you got the input for a project, you learned about what they were trying to do, and then you wrote the copy and presented it, and you worked with the group of creatives and your agency to develop visuals and concepts, and then you presented it and brought it all through to completion. So that was a great process for understanding marketing.
Sure.
And I worked for corporations, and then I worked for advertising agencies. I worked for Saatchi & Saatchi Advertising on Fifth Avenue. That was pretty exciting.
Wow.
Some of the Procter & Gamble big clients,
Sure.
IBM. I worked on IBM. And then I was brought to a smaller agency and worked on the IBM personal computer products, which was great. And my understanding of technology and technology's role in marketing,
Sure.
and how that is part of marketing. Look at our marketing today. It's nothing like it was 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
Well,
Thanks
I
to
shouldn't
technology.
say nothing.
Well,
like
due
it,
to,
it's
well,
very
I
different.
think you may be right. I think you may be right. 20 years ago, we didn't have as many billboards, right?
Right.
Digital billboards with, advertising or displaying brands. And so
Right.
it is
Right.
very different today
Very
than 20
different.
years ago. Yeah.
Some things similar, but
Sure.
also
Sure.
they've evolved
Sure.
and changed so dramatically. So that brought me to Florida. I came down to work with IBM and open an office for the Manhattan agency I was at. And I came down, interesting. I thought, well, I'll do 2 years in Florida and go back. I was a New York City kid. And after about a couple of months in Florida, I said, I think I'm going to stay here. I think I like it here a lot.
We all do that, yeah. Those of us that are from the north or from somewhere else, that's typically how it happens, yeah.
Yes.
We come and we have this goal or this idea, I'm just going to do this, and all of a sudden we get a whiff, particularly if it's November, December, January, February.
Oh, yes.
If we're here during those times, it's very hard to leave and to go back to any other place outside of Florida, yeah.
So that brought me into marketing in Florida, and I worked for Coulter Corporation. It was then bought out by Beckman Coulter, a major diagnostic equipment company, for 11 years. I was director of advertising and marketing communications there, which was a great experience because I handled external marketing and employee communications, corporate communications, public relations, everything. And it was a great learning, challenging experience for me. And then I felt like I wanted to teach. I wanted to share, talk about what I'm learning. And so I started teaching with the University of Phoenix and started teaching marketing courses in the evening. And I just found that I really enjoyed it, and it was very rewarding, so I stayed with it. And that brought me to Atlantis University.
Wow. And you've been with AU. Wow, I think it's been about 7 years?
It has, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been teaching here for about 7 years now and greatly enjoy it. The diversity of our student base is great. Yeah. We have students from different countries and different ethnic backgrounds and with very different perspectives and ideas. And
AU is a marketing a marketing, hub within itself, right? We are a marketing hub. If there is a country, there is probably a person from that country, if not at AU, certainly in Miami, right? Our internal community is very diverse, and our external community is very diverse.
And this is a global marketing world.
Yes.
Almost every corporation and business is marketing globally.
Absolutely.
And so to have that international perspective, to hear what students from South America and Europe and the Middle East and the Far East, their perspectives on marketing and what works, it's striking how many similarities we have, and it's also striking how many differences we have.
Yeah.
So,
and it continues to demonstrate the beauty of marketing, the impacts of marketing, the significance of marketing, just the change that marketing brings about, right? Because of, as you've said, the different stories, the differences, right, in the experience of a product or a place in Colombia versus the continent of Africa, or Uruguay versus Hawaii. So very, very distinct. So with that being said, this has been phenomenal. I knew you would do just what you've done, which is enlighten us, certainly enlighten me, Professor Lyons, my good friend Arthur. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for being here and for sharing your background, your experiences. Not only do you shine through these kinds of venues, but you certainly shine in the classroom. Myself, the remainder of our colleagues and our students continue to say that about you. And so it is a pleasure to call you my friend, and I'm glad to know you. So
my pleasure as well. You're very gracious, and I appreciate your kind words.
Absolutely.
And I have to tell you that I really enjoy time in the classroom with the students. When you're talking about the subjects we've been talking about and relating it to products and brands that they know and care about, they get excited, they get alive, they get animated, they want to share stories, they want to share experiences and feelings, and I love that. That's great.
They're buying the Crocs. They're buying the Nike. They're buying. So they certainly can, if there's no other topic and no other subject, a course in the university where they can make a contribution, those marketing courses, they certainly can.
And big aspects of marketing are social media and influencer marketing. They are very, very close to all that.
Absolutely.
They spend time on it every day, so they know it well. So it makes it very enjoyable. Thank you very much for having me.
So pleasure all mine. With that being said, I'd like to thank our viewing audience and those of you that have thought enough of us to chime in on today. Do stay tuned to AU Studios. We have many, many more awesome experts and topics to bring to you. But in the meantime, thank you. We appreciate you, and we look forward to sharing with you during our next session. Have a good one.